What's up, everybody? Welcome to Teen Life Group for today. Hope you guys are having a good day. We are going to continue our study in the book of Proverbs, chapter 18. The title of our series is Don't Be a Fool. And the title of today's lesson from verse 17 is Sleight of Speech. Sleight of speech. Okay, so today we're going to be in Proverbs 18:17, and we are getting close to the end of this chapter. And so I hope you guys have enjoyed the study. I know that I have. And so let's jump right in, and we will get through this today, all right? Verse number 17. The first to plead his case seems right until another comes and examines him. Okay, so let's take a look at this verse real quick, and I'll give you 3 points. There's been a couple verses that we've looked at that kind of say a lot of the same type of thing as this one is saying. A little bit different perspective. We'll look at that as we get through this. But the first to plead his case. That word, plead his case is kind of like someone who has a dispute and they want to bring it to somebody and they want to give their opinion, whether this is in a courtroom setting, which it very well could be, or the way I think it would be helpful for us to think about it is, hey, maybe these are a group of friends talking, all right, and you got situations that come up, or something's going on in your family and something's coming up and you got to discuss something, or somebody's got one side of the story, somebody's got another side of the story, and those type of relationships, they can get kind of complicated. And so the first one to kind of give their side of the story seems right until someone else comes and gives their side of the story, or until someone comes, in our verse says, examines him. The word examines is kind of the idea. I think one translation says cross-examines him, kind of like in a courtroom. You have someone give a testimony, and then the other lawyer will come up and cross-examine the witness. That's kind of the idea. The word examine, though, it means to explore. It means to search out. And so you're really trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. And, the courtroom setting is a perfect example, and this applies to that for sure. But what is that lawyer doing? They're trying to explore and search out what that witness has already said, and they want to find out if that is the truth or if something else might be true. Okay, and so we're going to take a look at this today. So the first one to plead his case seems right until another comes and examines him. So let's look at point number 1 of our sleight of speech is this. There are always 2 sides of a conflict, all right? There are always 2 sides of a story, okay? This is why that there is a conflict, because there's 2 sides of something. If everybody agreed, then there wouldn't be a conflict, okay? So that usually when this verse is being thought about, there's some kind of argument, again, some kind of conflict, some kind of quarrel or something like that. We looked at Proverbs 18:6 almost 2 months ago, and that was the lesson about down for the count. Remember the boxing, maybe illustrations that were in some of those? The first part of that verse, Proverbs 18:6, says this: a fool's lips bring strife. That word strife means quarreling, disputing, controversy, and that's the same word that is used here. Okay, I'll put it right back up here for us. The first part of our verse, verse 17, is that the verse says the first to plead his case. The verse literally says the first in his dispute. That phrase, plead his case, is the same word as strife in verse 6. So there's this quarreling, there's this conflict, there's this controversy. There's always 2 sides. The first one to bring their side kind of seems right. There's always 2 sides of the story, right? Someone comes, they give their side, they give their explanation, and the more that you listen to them, the more that you hear what they have to say, the more you think, hey, you know what? They may be right. But what this proverb is telling us is that we need to be careful not to just jump to conclusions, and we need to examine both sides of the story. Okay, we need to know that, hey, just because I heard this person first doesn't mean that they're right, even though they may be my friend. So just like in a card trick, a good card trick, what does it do? It has skill, it has sleight of hand, and it has to do with communication, right? So let's examine the other side of the story. Okay. Now you see the other side of the story, right? So someone may come and say something, and that may sound right and appear to be right, but until you know the whole side of the story, you may not know exactly what the truth is. So again, a good card trick is good at showing only one side of things. And sometimes people do this too. And they're really good at telling you or showing you one side of things. So we need to be careful that we examine all sides of things. So there's always two sides, all right? There's a side you hear first, and then the other side, okay? And all of those facts together are going to help you understand a situation. They're going to help you understand what's going on in your conflicts. And it takes a very wise, discerning person to do this, right? There are always two sides. And so number two is this, is that you need to insist on hearing everything, okay? Insist on hearing everything. Listen to both sides before making a decision. We don't need to be hasty in just always siding with our friends. And this is where it's so, again, it's so easy. It's like, this is my best friend. They said this, I trust them, and they're right. And, you know, most of the time, hopefully your best friends are going to be honest with you. But you've just got to be really, you got to be really careful. It's like, well, let me hear what the other person has to say. Let's hear what they got to say. You know, there was somebody, again, who, actually in my family, someone who was asking me some things that happened in society. I mean, a lot has happened in the last month, since March. So much has happened. And I won't give you the details of the situation, but they asked me something and what I thought about it. And at the time, it was kind of early on, and I was just like, you know, I don't really know the situation yet. Let me try to figure out the other side of that. And because I didn't want to speak too quickly. Okay, I didn't want to, you know, speak out of turn and say something that I may later regret. And what you're really listening for is you're listening for people's facts and truth, and you're trying to discern and weed out people's opinions and lies. Sometimes people may intentionally be lying to you. They may be intentionally spinning things to get you to hear something one way, but sometimes maybe it's not an intentional thing. And people legitimately see things two different ways. Again, this has happened with me in my ministry. You know, someone may have went and, you know, said something particularly about me to Pastor Mike. And, you know, this has happened before, you know, several years ago. And it's just like he heard one side of the story, and what did he want to do? And I appreciate this. He wanted to check with me. I was like, you know, what's your side of the story? And we all kind of talked about it, and we worked it out. And so, you know, Pastor Mike was wise in that he did not just jump to conclusions either way. He insisted on hearing everything, both sides of the story. And that's kind of what we need to do, right? What does the verse say? The first to plead his case seems right until someone else comes and examines him or searches out what they said. So there's always two sides to the story, and you need to insist on hearing everything. So here I have a normal deck of cards, okay, no special tricks or nothing, and I'm going to leave them in the screen so that you don't think that I'm doing TV magic or anything like that. And I have went ahead and I have pulled out the four kings. Okay, so they're right here, these guys. These are our bank robbers. They're bad guys, okay? So I'm going to try really hard to keep my hands on the screen so I don't get accused of cheating here. So there's our bad guys. Here's our normal deck of cards. And now the bad guys, this is our building. Bad guys, they land on top of the building. Boom, there they are, okay? So I'm going to turn this way so hopefully you can see here. We got four bank robbers. The first one is going to go to the bottom of the building. He goes to the basement. There he is. The second bank robber, he's going to go to the first floor. There he is. In there. Third guy, he goes to the second floor. Bank robber. There he goes. He's in there. And then the fourth and final bank robber, he stays on the roof to guard and make sure everything in the coast is clear. Guys down there, they're stealing all the money. Police helicopter. Come out with your hands up. Bank robbers realize they're caught, and then they run to the top of the building. And then we've got all four bank robbers at the top. So, another little sleight of hand trick. Like the other trick, that was more of a sleight of hand and me not showing you everything, right? There's always two sides of the story. You need to insist on hearing everything. And, I said a good card trick, any trick, has good sleight of hand and skill. And then also communication and like misdirection. So I told you I had a deck of cards right here. I did. There's nothing special about it. And I also told you that I had the bank robbers, all 4 kings. You guys remember? This is true. I showed them to you. I said I got all the kings right here. Only thing is, I didn't tell you everything. There's a little something else going on here. I have the 4 kings, but I also have some other cards tucked in behind here. You guys see that? I know I'm giving away all the tricks to the magic. So those cards are hidden back here. You didn't see them. You didn't know all the facts. You didn't see everything. The only thing you saw is what I wanted you to see. And so again, it's kind of like one side of the story, one side of the conflict. You don't have all of the information. It seems to be right, but it's not. So then when I take these and put them on my deck, then yeah, I got my 4 bad guys there, but I've also got these other cards sitting there on top of them. So the first guy goes down, second guy goes in there somewhere, next guy, and the whole time those kings have stayed right on top. And so again, how does that trick work? Communication, all right? And so there's always 2 sides of the story. You need to insist on hearing everything, listening to, try to pick out what are the facts, what are the truths, what are the opinions of somebody, and what are the lies of somebody. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not, but you need to be discerning. Okay, Peter Stevenson, he says that the wise man hears all the facts before making a decision. You just need to make sure you understand everything that's going on in a given situation. Okay, and then this brings us to the third point, and this kind of just brings it all. I think what the heart of the proverb is trying to teach us is that we need to be careful when listening to people. Okay, the first one to plead his case seems right until another comes and examines him. And hey, we just need to be discerning. We just need to be wise. The first thing here is that people tend to spin things in their favor, and people may not be trying to be deceptive. But it's just human nature to say things that appear to put us in a more favorable light. So when we hear conflicts being talked about, we just need to be discerning. We need to be careful. And we just don't need to be quick to pick a side or to make a judgment. Let me just hear everything out. Proverbs 18:13, which we learned a couple weeks ago, the title of that message was The Foolish Talker. And, I'll put the verse up here. He who gives an answer before he hears, it is folly and shame to him. This is someone who speaks out before hearing. And we talked about that. They don't really want to hear what's going on. They just say what they think, and they end up being, they're foolish, and shame comes upon them, right? That's really tied to what we're talking about here. We can't just hear one side and not hear the other side. We got to be real careful. We just need to be discerning. We need to be wise, because what happens is if you don't, then you get duped and you get fooled, and people do card tricks and they pull cards and things just kind of out of thin air, and you're like, oh my goodness, that's the coolest thing ever. When really, it's nothing more than just you've been duped. And so we don't want you to be that way. Okay, let's not be fools. Let's please the Lord. And, let's listen to everything. Let's be discerning, because you never know when someone might try to pull a sleight of speech on you. I'll see you next time.